friends, I'm Rosa. Welcome to the channel. So, it's a bit late for this month, but we're going through my July reads. I took a whole week off, so I'm like a small week behind plans now, but hopefully you guys are okay with that. So I think we're talking about 13 books today. I have 7 of them as physical copies. I did read another 2 manga that I had as physical copies, but I had to return to my brother because I borrowed them from him. And then that would mean that the remaining 4 were audiobooks. Is that right? Or did I forget a book? Oh right, I read an ARC as well. Okay, yes. So we have a good amount of books to go through today. I will make sure to leave chapters to them. My chair is being noisy. I hope you can't hear it, but it's a thing. I just wanted to address it. But I will be leaving chapters for the different books in the timeline down here, and also you can find links to the books in the description box as well if you want to check them out. So as per usual, we are going to start with my book club's primary pick for July. If you want to check out the book club, there's a link to that in the pinned comment. Because we read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros in July, and let me tell you, I love this so much. So, not to be like super basic, because I know that this is like very hyped, but I just really loved it. I had such a good time with it. I feel like people are theorizing now as well, even though it's hard to theorize with this book because there's only 1 book so far. Like, you don't really get any clues from other books you can compare to clues from this one, for example. If you know what universe I'm talking about, you know. But, well, it could be more than one universe, to be honest. But there's a specific universe that I'm talking about right now. But I'm hoping that the series will end up sort of being like a similar situation as that one, so we can like pick up clues here and there from this book and theorize on it compared to other clues and stuff like that. But as for Fourth Wing, we follow our lead girl whose name I've forgotten. Violet. Her name is Violet. I just remembered. Violet. Violet is a short, and I think some people describe her as a bit frail woman. I suppose she's technically an adult, so woman. She deals with chronic pain in her joints as far as I've understood, so she's just, you know, dealing with that on a day-to-day. But then she's supposed to be studying to become a scribe. That's what she's been doing for years as far as I can remember. However, her mom decides that in the last moment, like, suddenly she has to try out for the Dragon Rider squad instead, and she's just kind of thrown into the initiation trials for that. Violet is, luckily for us, a badass, so but these trials are very merciless. You are basically thrown into them, and either you succeed or you die. That's just how it is. So we follow her as she's going through the trials in this world that has some politics to it, that has some history with rebels as well, and there are dragons in this book as well, which, I mean, should be obvious from the cover and the edges and the stuff, the wing. So I loved it. I loved it, and I probably can't justify it, but like, I loved it. It was so bingeable. I had such a hard time slowing down reading this. I basically just wanted to continue, but I was covering it in a spoiler-free vlog for the book club, so I had to like not read it in 1 or 2 goes, you know what I mean? Otherwise it would have been a little bit like a short vlog. So, but I could easily have read this in like 1 or 2 settings. So good. So good. Love Violet, love the other characters. It has some found family vibes to it as well. Has an enemies to lovers situation as well. I'm gonna try to not, because I don't want to spoil anything. But I was about to mention another trope and I was like, nah, let's not. And the thing that I mostly want to talk about regarding this book, I can't even mention because I don't want to spoil it. If you've read it, there's a certain character in this who I adore with every little piece of my being. I adore this character, and I need to know. Like, I need to know. I have questions and I need to know. So, but yes, really loved this. I thought it was great. Don't really have any qualms with it whatsoever. Very curious to see where this series is gonna go, because I feel like Rebecca Yarros definitely has potential for something that could grow into something very big. But it just depends a bit on where she takes the books, you know? So we'll see. There are 5 books total, so 4 more coming, and I'm nervous. But already pre-ordered 2 editions of Iron Flame, so I'll be on that when I get it. We're gonna put her up here for now. No, actually no, because that annoys the lighting situation. The camera doesn't like shiny books. That's the thing I've noticed. Also, not like, well, maybe there's some chilly stuff going on in this, just like a little bit now and then. Not centered around it, but there definitely is some of it going on in it. So I would say it's fantasy romance, but with a nice plot as well, other than just the romance plot. I definitely have a lot of questions regarding the academy and, you know, all that stuff. Violet's mom as well got some questions regarding her and everything else going on. So I feel like there's a nice bit going on aside from the romance, but you do have to be into romance to actually like this one, I think. In my opinion, it still has a plot if it didn't have the romance, I just want to say. But that might not be a popular one. For the secondary pick, we read another fantasy romance actually, A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. I was actually sent the PDF for this months and months ago, and then I read a little bit of it and I really liked it, so I decided to order it as a physical copy instead, because I like reading physical books more than I like reading on my Kindle or on my iPad. I like tapping like this, I like being able to quickly look it up, and I just like holding the book in my hands. So I decided to actually buy it before fully jumping in. I really liked it. I will say certain things about this, if you read a lot of fantasy romance, especially with fae, because there are fae in this, a little bit predictable because you've kind of seen it elsewhere, but still enjoyed it. I liked the writing as well. So in this one we follow our lead girl, whose name is Arwen. Yes, Arwen. And she is, she's blessed with powers, magical powers. She can heal people. Not her, well, yes, she can heal herself. For some reason, not her mother. For some reason. But she can just generally heal people. And so she lives in a kingdom that is plagued by wars because the Onyx Kingdom. So we have like different, is there a map? Yes. The kingdom here is, or the world here is split up into different kingdoms, and a lot of them are named after gemstones. And the Onyx Kingdom is currently raging war on, does that actually say that, raging war? Well, there's a war going on. Waging. Is that what, yeah, waging war. Well, that sounds weird. We're moving on. On the Kingdom of Amber, which is where Arwen is from. So her and her mother and her sister and her brother have to run off to Peridot, I think they're going to. I can't remember exactly where they're going. But unfortunately for Arwen, she is in the process of running. She's taken to the Onyx Kingdom by some Onyx soldiers instead, and she ends up at the castle where the royals are, and she has to work for them for a while. She learns a little bit more about the war, she learns stuff, she learns to, or she gets to know different characters as well. I'm trying not to, I keep nudging my camera, it's super annoying, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to say too much, but that's basically what it is. She is taken off to this kingdom against her will, and she has to stay there and heal the Onyx soldiers and some other people there, and she just gets to know a little bit more about what's going on. She gets to know some secrets and stuff. So, oh, and there's a guy. Of course there's a guy. It's another enemies to lovers situation, sort of, I want to say. I will say, I don't know if is this a spoiler? No. She was very trusting very quickly, which kind of bugs me as a non-trusting person. I'm like, oh, just slow down a little bit, like, you're making me scared now. Like, she definitely jumped into it very, very quickly. And I just wanna, she should definitely have slowed down a little bit. So that's the thing, like slightly insta-lovey, just like a little bit, like a hint of it. And I just really love a slow burn for me. There's tab stuff. Tab remains stuck on my cover. Great. Or at least like insta-lovey in the heavy into feelings. But acting on them is a little bit slower. So just want that to be clarified. Oh, and she's also taught a little bit more about her powers, I think, as well. So it's basically like about her knowing what's actually going on and learning her powers and stuff. It was cool, but like I said, just some of it was a little bit, just like a tiny bit predictable. If you are used to reading fantasy romance, you may have seen certain plot points in other books and that's the thing. But it was enjoyable, very, very bingeable as well. I read it so quickly, and I'm very curious to see where the story is gonna go. So we'll see. We will see. Then, as for some other Fae books, I had like a week where I was very focused on either finishing up reading series or continuing series that I'd started. So I picked up book 2 and 3 in the Folk of the Air. So I have now actually finished that trilogy. I'm still not done with, oh gosh, that one with the very long title. How the King of Elfame Learned to Hate Stories? Wait a minute. How the King of Elfame Learned to Hate Stories. Oh, I got it right. I haven't read this one yet, but I'll get to it. Before reading The Stolen Heir, I want to read that one. But I did read the main books. So The Wicked King and also Queen of Nothing. And I loved them. And I feel like for someone who's not really in my YA era right now, I very much like new adult or adult books. Right now, that's just where I am. But I really, really enjoyed them. These are definitely, yes, there's a romance, but there's so much royal court intrigue, politics, backstabbing, scheming, you know, that sort of thing. There's a lot of that in these books and I love it. And they're so fast paced as well. I think both of them are like 350 pages at most or something like that. 305 is Queen of Nothing and The Wicked King is 322. So like they're very quick reads. I read both of them in one day. Like I read this in one day and then I read this the next day. Just very, very enjoyable. I love Jude as a character as well. I think I forgot to say what The Cruel Prince is about, which is what the first book is called. But let's get to it. So we follow Jude, who is a human living in Fairy, which is not easy because Fae tend to look down on humans. We are smelly and annoying, we're ugly, and we're just there for entertainment, basically. They are eternal and beautiful and, you know, all that gracious, and humans are everything that they're not. So it's not easy for Jude as the human living in Fairy, and she's not treated very well by her classmates. She's in fact very much bullied. Her twin has kind of like learned to deal with it, but Jude has a very big tendency to fight back. Like that's just what she does. And so she is dragged into some scheming because there's some royal stuff going on. Like she's very, I don't want to call her father because that's not what he is. Her half-sister's father has taken her and her siblings to Fairy. Like that's how they ended up there, and he is a commander or something like that, so he's like very well connected, and that's how she's ended up in class with the youngest prince of the High King of Fairy, for example. So like she's in that circle. He's one of the bullies, by the way, but like that's how she gets connected to all this like scheming and stuff. But yeah, it's basically about Jude needing to find power after being taken to Fairy, and against her will, might I just add, and just wanting to find her place in this world that doesn't like her. And I love her for it. I love it. I love it all. I adore her a lot. She's the kind of character that I just really love to read about. Like the ones that have not been dealt the best of hands and just choose to fight against it, and then she has a dagger. It's a good combo. I love it. So, very much enjoyed these books. We'll be looking forward to reading the short stories and also The Stolen Heir. We'll see about that one. I learned recently that it's only a duology, which really took me by surprise. I thought it was another trilogy, but apparently not. Just a duology. It's fine. I don't have like the biggest connection with Oak as a character. I think that's natural because he's not really in these books a whole lot. So, and he's also a kid. So like, I don't really, it's not like I'm like desperate to jump into The Stolen Heir, but we will see. We will see. Which one should we do next? I'm gonna finish off the physical books before we talk about the rest. So let's talk about Twisted Games by Anna Huang. I don't actually really have room for the other ones on the shelves now, so. But Twisted Games by Anna Huang is the second book in the Twisted series. These are adult/new adult contemporary romances. They are smutty, and it's not for the faint of hearts. Is that how you say that? Yeah. It's not, it's a lot. Very enjoyable though. These are just like enjoyable, bingeable reads. Like I just like them. They're so easy to read and just enjoyable. Yeah. In this one, we follow Bridget, who you've also met in the first one, if you've read it. She is a princess of a European country called Eldora, and she is, because she's a princess, she has to constantly be protected by a bodyguard that is following her 24/7. Her usual bodyguard, though, is unfortunately going on a break because his wife somehow has ended up pregnant, which I continuously was questioning, because like, if he's with her all the time, how did he end up, when did that happen? Like, I don't know. What's the timeline here? Like, I don't get it. But we're not gonna question it, it's fine. So he has to go on a break, and so she is assigned a new bodyguard who's called Reese, who is a tall, muscular, grumpy, has a scar. He is ex-military as well, and he draws. He does not sing. Just wanna, no singing. No singing in this one. Okay? Yes. And so the two of them don't really get along at the start. They have a little bit of a slow start, a slow getting acquainted and stuff, but it's fun to see. There's a lot of banter in this one. A lot of like slowly walls crumbling down, and very, very enjoyable. But, and lots of cuteness as well, because Reese, despite being a big grump, is actually very lovable. So I've tapped it like a whole lot. This is a lot of tapping. This is a whole lot of tapping. None of this is world building. Just want to, like, none of it. It's all just cute quotes. Or smutty ones. It could also be smutty ones, I'm just saying. So yeah, very much enjoyed seeing them slowly getting to know each other, slowly getting closer and stuff, and all the lovey-dovey feels. Loved it. I'm very excited to read Twisted Hate. I'm halfway through Twisted Hate, so like I'm already into it. There's a lot of banter in that one as well. A lot of very angry situations. Like a lot, and very, very angry, like very much anger. Anger oozing off the pages in that one. Not so much anger in this one, but still not for the faint of hearts. Yes. If I say throne room, will you know what I mean if you read the book? Will you get what I mean? Okay, good. We're moving on to the next book. And that leaves us with two more. So we have Defend the Dawn by Bridget Kemmerer. This was one of my like most anticipated reads that I was planning on reading in 2023. Like I was so into Defy the Night that I had such high hopes for Defend the Dawn. And then I hate talking negatively about books. Like I hate it because a lot of work went into this, and just because I don't enjoy it, it doesn't mean that everyone else won't enjoy it either. But this just was not for me. This is what I don't like in YA fantasy, especially. Like this is just, it's not for me. So I will say, as for Defy the Night, we follow two rebels who are stealing this flower that is needed for making antidote for this like sickness that is basically running rampant, whatever, going crazy in this kingdom. And the rich people is basically hoarding this flower, so that's why the two rebels are stealing it, and they are distributing it among the people that can't really afford it, so they can stay healthy and not die, essentially. But unfortunately something happens one day, and so we're left with Tessa running off to the castle on a whim, literally just running off to the castle on a whim. She ends up infiltrating the castle, and what she learns while she's at the castle is super shocking to her and will turn her world upside down. As for this one, we're no longer at the castle, which I feel like is quite obvious from the cover, but that's really all I'm gonna say. I have a thing with journey books. I don't like them. Any book where you spend too much time on a horse, in a carriage, on a bus, in a car, except if it's like a very awkward road trip, then that's cool. But any book that is a part of a series where the characters have to get from point A to point B and it ends up taking way too long, I am looking at you, Blood and Honey. I'm definitely looking at you. I hate them. I don't like them. So I was hoping that this was just, the trip in this wasn't going to be as long as it ended up being. Also, especially considering this basically turned into like relationship drama, And that's just not what I want from this series. I want rebels. I want politics. I want backstabbing politicians. Sure, there's a little bit of that in this one, but it's not like as big a part of the plot as I want it to be. It's very much not there because they're on a boat. So they're not really getting told anything that's going on. It's very much about the relationship drama, and I'm not just, no, that's not what I want from this. But that's what I ended up getting. And unfortunately, that's just... Also, Tessa basically was completely inconsequential in this one. Like, she was just like pulled back and forth between these two opposing characters that for some reason agreed on several things, but then were just like in their thoughts, like what they were saying they agreed on, but then you were following one character and he was like, but I hate him, and then like the other character, and so they couldn't get along even though they're definitely on the same side. It's so weird. It's so strange. And she's just pulled back and forth between these two. And it's so annoying. Like, she takes no decisions were made on her part whatsoever throughout the whole thing. Okay. And that's the last thing I'm gonna say, because I could literally sit here and complain about this for the longest time. If you want some more thoughts on this, I did write a review that is, I don't write like long reviews on Goodreads, but I leave some more thoughts on the book in that review, so go check it out if you want to. But yes, I still want to read Destroy the Day. I was like, what is the time of day in this one? Dawn. So I still want to read Destroy the Day, but it's not going to be like a high priority for me, unfortunately. So yeah, we're moving on. I don't mean to hide her, but I just don't have any room left on my shelves right now. So she's gonna be over. Yep. And that leaves us with We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal, which, yes, is another YA fantasy, but it feels very mature. Sure, a little bit like long drawn at times, which is also why I'm not giving it a 5 stars. I think I ended up settling on a 4, but I still liked it a lot. Am I biased because Saphira loves to wear daggers? Yes. Or she doesn't, she wears a bow. But she's a badass girl with a weapon, and I love it. Also, the characters in this do feel, I think they're actually supposed to be about the same age as the lead characters in Defend the Dawn, but they just feel a little bit more mature for some reason. Like, I don't know. I can't justify it, but it just feels like that. Hafsa Faisal, first of all, has a beautiful way of writing. It's very flowy, and it's very varied as well in her choice of words. I love the little like bits of slang here and there. I don't know if it is called slang, but like the little bits of other language in there. I enjoyed that as well. It's in the first book too, but just wanted to quickly mention. In the first one though, we follow Saphira, who is the huntress. So she is basically in charge of hunting for food for her village. She's given herself that task. It's not like it's been thrust upon her or anything. She's definitely taken it upon herself to do that because she's good at what she does and she knows it. And then we also follow Nasir, who is the son of the prince, or he's the prince, he's the son of the sultan, and he's also known as the Prince of Death because he is often sent out as a mercenary by his father. In the first one, Saphira is sent off into the middle of this world that we're in because there's a storm raging, kind of. And so she has to get to the middle of it to get this thing that is in the middle so she can restore magic. Nasir is sent off to basically kill her so that she won't succeed. And that's the thing. But there's also an enemies to lovers situation in this one, so like jump to your conclusions if you want to. My favorite character is still Altair. I love him to bits. Okay, every time he was on page, I was squealing. No, I wasn't squealing. I was just enjoying it. I love his humor. So, he's my kind of guy. I was about to say my kind of guy. He's my kind of character. I just really enjoy his humor. This did feel a little bit, like I mentioned, long drawn at times. Like, I definitely feel like this book almost ended 3 it sort of made sense that it continued still. I get it. It was very tied to feelings as well. Like, that's why we didn't end it where it was. I'm happy that it didn't, because there was a bigger build-up, but definitely felt a little bit long drawn at times, just want to say. Also, not miscommunication, but indecisiveness. A lot of it. So that's a thing. There were like 10 pages at the end where I was a bit like, okay, get over it. Come on, stop it. Why? Why would you say that? Why would you make that decision? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you've been so indecisive and then you decided on that by the end, but then 10 pages later it was like, you know what, never mind. Those kind of situations, we don't need that. I was laughing at it in this one. It's annoyed me in another one, in another book that I'm talking about next month. Because yes, I finished it here in August and I can't include it in my July wrap up, but it just wasn't needed. Those 10 pages were not needed. So, but yeah, I did enjoy this a lot. It's a beautiful duology. Hafsa Faisal is a beautiful writer, and I'm looking forward to devouring whatever else she comes out with. Tempest of Tea, I think, comes out later this year. It was pushed from last year, so we're definitely gonna have a look at that. I think that's a vampire book, or there's at least a vampire in it. I have a thing for vampires, so maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I think there was supposed to be a vampire in it. I guess we'll see, but yeah. Would definitely recommend. If you're looking for something YA that's just a little bit mature, but don't think like explicit content mature, just think like vibe and language-wise mature, and also pace. It's a bit slower, but it's beautiful. And that leaves us with no room on the shelves, and also physical books over. So we have some audiobooks to go through. I feel bad placing her behind me, but like I can't do anything else, so hi. So we have 3 audiobooks and then 1 arc and 2 manga. I'm gonna quickly touch on the manga because honestly I can't really remember much about them, but I read Berserk volume 1 and 2 and I enjoyed them. They're about a guy with a big sword who is basically chasing demons or something. I don't fully know what they are. It hasn't been explained to me exactly, or if it has, I didn't understand it. So I just went on the ride and it was like, no questions asked, it's fine. Really enjoyed it. He has a huge sword. Actually, this is slightly tied to, it's not story-wise tied to, but I play a lot of Elden Ring, and one of my characters who's actually, I'm cosplaying as Tisana from Daughter of No Worlds on that character. I'm a nerd, it's fine, okay? You guys are not surprised. But I gave her a huge two-hander, and as it turns out, so I started reading Berserk and I was like, that two-hander looks so familiar. Like, what is it? It reminds me of that sword. Why is that? It turns out that the sword from Elden Ring is actually a bit of like a nod to Berserk, which I think is cool because Elden Ring is created by a Japanese game creator, whatever you want to call that, and Berserk is manga, so from Japan. I don't know, I think that's cool, but it's just the crossover I couldn't really connect until someone told me. I was like, wait a minute, you are right, what the heck. But yeah, it's funny, enjoyable, very gory, very action-packed, and I am continuing with the series because I have volume 3 and 4, 5, 6, and 8, 7 is in there somewhere too. I have those in my book cart at the moment because I've borrowed them from my brother. So I will be continuing. I just haven't gotten to it in a little bit. But the thing is, when you read manga, you go through the volumes very quickly, and I end up mixing the volumes together, so I can't really like differentiate what is volume 1 and what is volume 2. Like I just kind of... So we're not going to touch on the story too much because I don't want to say anything, but it's cool. Very cool. Then I also read on Kindle, oh gosh, this title is the longest, The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England? England? Yes. By Brandon Sanderson, which I went into, I have an ARC of it, so thank you to whoever sent me the ARC. Who released it? I should probably thank the publisher. It's released by Dragonsteel Entertainment. Tor. I got it from Tor. So this is about a guy who ends up in medieval England somehow. He doesn't know who he is, he can't remember. He doesn't really know where he is, but he learns it's medieval England. And he is basically being chased by like peasants or something. And it's about him slowly learning who he was before he ended up here. So just in short, there are these packages that, without saying too much because it is described and explained throughout the book. But there are these packages that you can buy so you can basically time travel, but you end up in another dimension. And that's how the whole situation came about. But that's all I'm gonna say, because the rest I don't want to explain. Because it would just, I feel like with an amnesia story, saying too much, I would give too much away too quickly. But that bit is actually very quickly described in the book, so I think we're good with that. I will say for this one, I was expecting a little bit more because it's Brandon Sanderson, but it's one of his secret projects that he had written throughout the last couple of years. I think it's tied to his Patreon as well, or his Kickstarter, whatever it is, I can't remember. And those projects are just a little bit different from his usual books. So with that in mind, I still was expecting a little bit more. This is a sci-fi, don't get me wrong, yes, medieval England, but it's a sci-fi. So fantasy elements, but it's a sci-fi. And it's very much like on the nose kind of humor, which either you'll like or you won't. And I thought it was funny to start out with, and then I just got a little bit annoyed with it, which is why I wasn't really like fully enjoying it. Like, you have to vibe with the humor in it, and if you don't, then it's not going to be for you. I enjoyed guessing along with him in regards to who he is, because I don't know him. He doesn't know who he is. We're kind of just figuring out together, you know, but the rest just, also some parts of it got a little bit confusing. I don't think I'm good at reading sci-fi, to be honest. Even when it's taking place in a normal place like England, I still don't think I'm good at sci-fi. I think I suck at reading sci-fi. I've come to terms with it. I'll get better at it at some point, but this book did not help me along with that goal. So, but yeah, definitely don't go into this one thinking it's anything like Brandon Sanderson's other books, because it's not going to be. And if you find out very quickly that you're not really vibing with the humor, it's okay to put it down. But other than that, it was very bingeable. There were chapters in between, or like bits in between the chapters, that describe this whole like concept with the dimensions for you. The thing about the arc was that it was very hard to read because the document is not finalized, so it was like kind of broken up into pieces, just as a disclaimer. So those I didn't really fully get to read towards the end because it just turned out to be impossible. But I read the first couple of excerpts there were from the Handbook, the Frugal Wizard's Handbook, and those were funny. They were funny while I could read them, so I will give it that. I liked the little bits of information. And then there was a love story that just kind of came out of the blue, which I'm not going to touch on, but that was a thing as well. I don't know. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, so that's where I'm going to leave it, I think. As for the 3 audiobooks that I read, quickly gonna touch on Artificial Condition, which is by Martha Wells. It's the sequel to All Systems Red, so it's Murder Bud number 2. And I honestly cannot remember much of this other than I like Murder Bud. I think it's funny. Murder Bud is a robot, essentially, a murder robot who grows a conscience and gets feelings, and it's quite interesting. I like the character Murderbot quite a lot, so I'm gonna continue it, but I can't really fully specifically remember what happened in Artificial Condition, so except that he's stuck with a group and there's another robot who talks very quickly, according to the audiobook. I remember that bit. But yeah, and they talk a lot about TV shows, because Murderbot loves TV shows. That's the thing. Can download a lot of TV shows and watch them anytime they want. So, but yeah, it's cool. I love Murderbot as a character. Gonna continue, but I cannot tell you exactly what Artificial Condition was about. Apologies. They are novellas though, and that's why. They're very short, very fast-paced, and there's a lot of action all at once. So that's basically why. Then I also listened to, I want to talk about the other one before. Oh, Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, which is a short book with like 6 short stories or something like that about myth or about Norse mythology. They were all stories that I personally heard before, but I'm also from Denmark. A lot of us here grow up with like children's shows being about Norse mythology or inspired. At least it was when I was a child. I don't know how it is now. They might just watch Pokemon or Paw Patrol or whatever. But when I was a kid, I also have a dad who was a history teacher, So he does have some knowledge on Norse mythology because it is tied to our history, and has shared a little bit with me and definitely made me grow like an interest for mythology. We also have like Christmas shows that are based on Norse mythology. There's a lot. So like the stories I already knew in one way or another. Got a little bit more detail on some of them, which was pretty cool. And I listened to the audiobook. It's narrated by Neil Gaiman, which I thought was very nice. He's very funny to listen to. He's very comfortable, or comforting, I suppose it's called instead. I hope he's also comfortable. I don't know how he's doing. But I would say that if you are interested in learning a little bit more about Norse mythology, because I can't really tell you like exactly what the book is about in detail. We got different stories in it, but all of them are like very well-known stories in Norse mythology, which as a mythology is a very like abstract mythology, so there's a lot of things that you can kind of interpret in your way, and it's a little bit weird at times. But if you are interested in kind of learning a little bit more about it, I would say that it's a pretty good one to jump into. I would recommend, if you're curious at least and you want to satisfy that curiosity, go ahead. Neil Gaiman is awesome to listen to. I also really enjoyed, so he did include, the last story was about Ragnarok? Yeah. And I really enjoyed that because this event is technically something that is supposed to happen, but it hasn't happened. But we know exactly what's going to happen, and I really enjoyed that he talked about that event in a whole different tense than he did with the other stories. I think it was like, what's it called? Not past tense, now tense? Present tense. I was like, what is this? Now. I think the others were in past tense. He just spoke about it in a different way than he did with the other ones, which I thought was very cool. A nice little touch to it, because it is supposed to be this event that happens, but it hasn't really happened. I like how we just know what's going to happen, even though it hasn't. But we just know in detail. Norse mythology is weird. It's very cool though. I'm totally not biased. And then lastly, I also listened to The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp, which is a YA mystery thriller sort of situation. It's about a girl who is the daughter of a con woman, and she has ended up in a bank robbery where she's basically taken hostage with her friends and a lot of other people. And so her very particular set of skills is comes into play because she knows a thing or two about reading people and getting out of very inconvenient situations. And you learn a thing or two about both her past, the past girls that she's been, because she continuously gets a new name from her mother whenever they'd moved in the past. So like she's had to take on different personalities, learned different things and different skills and so on and so on. You learn a little bit about these different girls, her past, but also about her friends and her relationship with both her friends, but also her sister, her mother. There's a lot of stuff. Very cool book. Just want to say very cool. Tess Sharp, I believe herself, actually narrated the audiobook that I listened to. If you're curious where I find my audiobooks, I find them on Libby. Yes, if you're in Denmark, you do have access to Libby. No, I cannot help you set it up because I cannot remember how I did it, but it was pretty simple. As long as you have your security number, social security number, you can set it up. So I forgot what that number is called in Danish right now, but you know the number, right? Yes, you can set it up because that's your library card. That's all I can remember, but it's very easy. So if you're Danish and you're looking for free audiobooks without having to stick with just our library's very, very small selection, check out Libby. Or not just audiobooks, they also have other books. They also have like ebooks. So, but I got a question about that the last time I mentioned Libby, so I just thought I'd mention it. I don't know how it is in other countries, so I can't help you. I can just say for Danes, they got you. But as for the book, it was very cool. I think Tess Sharp did a great job. I think it's the kind of book that I would have done a little bit better with if I'd read it, simply because there were these like summaries at the start of almost every chapter, and it got a little bit too much for my head to listen to. But the rest I really, really enjoyed. It was just those summaries. I was like, ugh, not the summary again. I think it would have been better if I'd read it. So, but that was the thing. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I was shocked at times. There's definitely some heavy stuff in there. Like, she's definitely not had an easy life, our dear girl. I know her name, but like I don't want to say. So you can listen to the book. Or read it if you want to learn. Yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so good. I honestly only picked it up because I just like having one audiobook that I can listen to while I make my breakfast and stuff. Or if I'm in the shower, for example, like just to get an extra book in, I suppose. I don't know. It's nice now that I've learned how to listen to them. It's nice. I listen to them in small bits. I can't sit here for like 5 hours at a time, or 3, or just 1. Like half an hour at a time, that's good. But that's also where my brain goes, nope, no more. Maybe an hour tops, but like no more than that. So, yeah, I like just having an audiobook to listen to now and then, and I knew that this one wasn't one that I was or necessarily going to buy because it's YA Miller? Mystery thriller. I think we should make that an official word though. Miller. It's like MYLLER, Miller. Yeah. And I don't read a lot of that. I don't own a lot of that. So I already knew that I wasn't going to buy it in physical form or as a physical copy. So I just decided to get it basically on Libby, and then I really enjoyed it. It very much positively surprised me. Getting out of my comfort zone a little bit as well. It was nice. It was very cool. And again, I like this kind of character that just has not been dealt the greatest hand and just takes matters into her own into her own hands. She very much fights for it, you know, and I just really like that. I thought it was well written as well. I like the whole like we're unpacking her past bit by bit. So, and her mother is freaking awful. Hate her mother oh my god. My jaw dropped a couple of times, okay? Just a couple. More than a couple. It dropped. I was like, no. I'm so happy that I have had the set of parents that I've had. I still have them. I don't know why I said had. They're still my parents. I'm so happy that I have them. You know, it could be so much worse. You could have a parent like hers. Oh, no. So, yes. Would recommend if you want to go a little bit out of your comfort zone and you're very much used to reading romance or fantasy romance, check it out. It was actually really cool. Also definitely more on the mature side of YA. Again, heavier subjects are mentioned, talked about, check up on triggers, but also a bit language now and then, just to, I don't mind it. I'm from Denmark, we swear all the time. It's basically ingrained in the language. It's basically built into it by now, but so personally don't mind, but just for those of you who might, there's your heads up. But that's all I got. Those were the 13 books. I feel like I'm losing my voice, which makes no sense because I've not talked all day, but here we are. I've had a couple of days. I was at a festival yesterday. That's probably why. That would be why. Yeah. I feel it. I don't know. I feel like my voice also cracked a couple of times. We're gonna politely ignore it. It'll get better throughout the week. But she's struggling right now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this wrap up. There'll be another one at the start of September. Does anyone else always forget that September exists? Or is it just me? Like, I genuinely don't remember that month exists. If your birthday is in September, do not get offended, please. But yeah, that's the thing. I don't know why. Everyone also hates on my birthday month. It's January. Nobody likes January. I don't take offense. It's fine. You can hate January if you want to. It's cold. It's dark. It's definitely not the best birthday month. But anyway, I am ranting about random stuff. If you want to check out the books, they are linked to in the description box down below. And if you want to check out the book club, it's linked to in the pinned comment. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, but also all the other booktube stuff, definitely consider sticking around by clicking on the subscribe button. However, that is all I got for you guys today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Oh, you're beautiful, and it's like